Hey everybody, welcome to Galaxy Brain. We're finally back. It's been a long hiatus for the show as things have happened. I've been busy with other stuff, but we're back, and I'm hyped about our guest this time around. It's SpicyAppies, recently off. Great performance in the Challenger Series for TFT. Just a really fun streamer to watch. You're a streamer that I watch more than a lot of other streamers because you do a good job of explaining what you're going through mentally when you're thinking about during the game, and that's kind of what the show is all about. So happy to have you on here. How you doing?
You. I'm doing well. I'm doing well. Just chilling, getting ready for Zon Cup. It's this weekend, so prepping. There's a patch a couple days before it, which is a little scary.
Yeah.
So just watching some PBE gameplay and chilling today, more or less. So
Yeah, I've been jamming the PBE a little bit too, just try to get a feel for it. It doesn't seem like it's going to change that much, but there will be some alterations, like there always are. But that's a whole different video. We'll talk
yeah,
about that later. But for now, let's get to know you a little bit. You've been competing in TFT for I want to say about a year and a half. Is that about right?
yeah. I started playing the game at, like the end of base set 3, and then
Oh, okay,
I
yeah.
think I hit Challenger the first time, the end of 3.5, and then set 4 was my first tournament. And then I did pretty poorly tournament wise, set 4, set 5.
Mhm.
And then this set, I decided to kind of get my shit together a little bit. And
All right.
looking good so far.
I
So
think it has been gotten together quite well. Your results have been definitely improving over time. Like, what was it about Teamfight Tactics that kind of like caused you to want to come at it from a competitive sense instead of just play it for fun?
yeah, I actually talked about this on stream yesterday a little bit, but I've realized as I've gotten older that I'm not a gamer, and that
Wow. All
I
right.
don't have as much fun is more as a kid. I had a lot of fun just playing RPGs, playing games in general.
Okay.
But as I've gotten older, if there's not like competitive side of things, it's really hard for me to get into them and to like stay interested. And so when I started playing TFT, I've always loved strategy games. Big Slay the Spire fan. Big, I mean that's probably the one of the only like games I can play just for the pure enjoyment of it at this
I feel
point.
that.
But yeah, so TFT kind of combined the competitive aspect with the side of gaming that like I still find really fun, like anything draft heavy, like card games. Like playing around variants, I think is really fun. So it kind
Okay.
of combined the ability for me to be competitive with the ability for me to have fun in the game into like the perfect little package. So
All right. So did you play any games kind of competitively for fun before you got into TFT or?
yeah, so actually it's gonna be weird, but I was a big Smash player.
Oh, okay,
Um,
cool.
yeah, I have my history competitively, the gaming wise, is in all in Smash. I competed in Smash 4 in high school, and then when Ultimate came out, I played a lot of Ultimate. I played Melee a little bit. Not I entered a couple tournaments in college, but not anything crazy. But
Okay.
yeah, so Smash, yeah, my Smash friends actually got me into TFT as well. So
I
Smash has
grew up
been a big
playing
thing for me.
Melee, so I definitely and I play a decent amount of Smash Ultimate still. I'm an Incineroar main. So I got us
Oh,
what were your mains in I know, right? What were your mains in 4 and then now in Ultimate?
yeah, so in 4 I was a ZSS main for a long time, and then
Oh, okay.
I switched into Meta Knight when I saw MK ladder. So there's
It's
a
one of the
infamous clip
best.
of yeah, he laddered Mr. R off the top. This is like the first time MK ever got noticed. It was a
Huh.
Smash Factor 3, I think. And I was like, oh, I need to play Meta Knight now. And now I've just been a Meta Knight player the entire way through. He's not as
Okay,
good in
wait.
Ultimate, but he's still fun.
So that's why you have the Meta Knight on your stream background. I get it now.
Yes.
Okay, I get it now.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Meta Knight is near and dear to my heart.
MKLeo's
So
awesome. He like watching him taught me how to play Ike like so much better. Ike was always my second main in
Mhm.
like Smash 4 and then now in Ultimate as well. And in Smash 4 though I was a Charizard main. So I was like the high risk high reward characters. High risk high reward
yeah.
Pokemon apparently. But now he's
The
trapped inside
Pokemon, yeah.
Pokemon Trainer, but
The fire types.
yeah. Well, Pokemon Trainer's a better character, but anyway, enough about Smash. let's let's I got so excited I started hyperventilating because I love Smash. We should do a Smash show too sometime. But
We should. We should.
let's get into the games. Let's get into actual Teamfight Tactics games. So today we've got two VODs to look at. One they're both from the Challenger series, right?
Yes.
And so we're gonna take a look at the first one, then we're gonna come back here and talk about a little bit, and then we're gonna get into the second one. But how about it? You ready to get into the game?
I am.
All right, let's do it. And here we go into game number 1 of the day here. Although this was game number 2, you told me, right?
Yep. Yeah. This is game one was a close fourth, and this was mental was okay. I think going into game two, but
Okay, all right. When I was watching your stream, you seemed pretty calm overall throughout the day. Like you might not have felt that way on the inside, but to the exterior, the objective viewer, you look pretty chill. Do you? How worried would you say you get during tournaments on average? What's the nerve level on a normal tournament day?
yeah. So I would say going into this is day two of the tournament. Day one of the tournament, I was probably more nervous than I've ever been in a tournament because I think people had been looking towards me as a player on the come up. I didn't want to disappoint people. So day one was really scary. Once I got through to day two, And once my day one scores were very consistent. It was like 3-3. I think it was 3-3, 3-3-4 or something.
Yeah, tons of thirds.
Yeah. So I was feeling pretty good after that, and then going into today, I did feel much more calm. I was like, I think I proved what I needed to prove. I got to day two, so I'm just gonna play my game and
Mhm.
we'll have fun with it with TFT because TFT is really fun and it's a game. You should have fun with the game.
It is,
So
and dare I say, set six is the most fun I've ever had in TFT.
same.
And yeah, it's been awesome. I'm kind of shocked set six is coming to an end already. Like we're already talking about 6x5. That news came out today. It's crazy. But
I
like,
know.
I wanted to ask you about this Nico start though. How do you feel about Nico start? I'm always a little bit sad because if you don't get like a three cost pair early or something, it feels like it just sits there for a long time. Like, how do you feel about it?
Yeah, so I guess I'll talk about the whole early game here. So
Yeah, go for it.
generally, this was the biggest high roll of the game, by the way. Maybe the whole tournament for me was getting this Morello's. So
Oh yeah, that's right.
I I like playing AP, so I would generally try to start tier off Carousel. I didn't get tier, I got belt, so I was looking for like some kind of anti-heal early game. This
Mhm.
Nico is what it basically means is that in my mind is that I want to go 8, right? I want to go 8 pretty quickly. I want to hit a 2-star 5 cost if I
Right.
can. I'm willing to Nico. I think I take this Swain from my shop. I'm thinking that I'm willing to Nico it for streak if I need to, because uh, I actually I played in a tournament right before like the think 2 days before this tournament. It was a third party thing, but
Okay.
I won that tournament. It was like a big 256 man tournament or something.
Nice.
And the last game of that, I got a Nico opener. I got Swain pair because I took like Arcanist augment and I had a Swain in my shop. I Nico'd it and it made me win streak the entirety of stage 2. So I'm already thinking like, okay, I'm either going quick 9 or quick 8, looking to star 5 cost of this Nico, or if I hit a Swain in my shop, I'm willing to just send it immediately.
And I feel like when I watch you play, you tend to sort of prefer to go fast eight if possible. Do you think that's just kind of a reflection of the meta right now, or is that just like a personal preference thing?
Yeah, I think my playstyle. I think I'm looking back at my VODs a lot, and I've been looking back at the tournament and just how I feel comfortable and what spots I feel comfortable in the game in general. And
Mm.
I think part of it is that Quick 8 is good in the meta, but my playstyle, it like really rewards getting to 8 quickly because how I play is I play very tempo heavy. I think like the advantage I have over other players is that I think I'm really good at understanding strongest board and making a board out of what the game gives me rather than like having to look for anything. So by
Right.
going quick 8, I can make boards out of 5 costs and just these higher cost units. I have more tools to work with, so I never really like to stay low level. And like I'll almost never reroll these days.
That makes sense. All right, that's one of the reasons I've been watching a lot lately because I really have always preferred to play the game that way too. Like I hate lost streaking. I hate having to like be under level or be leveling later than everybody else. I like to kind of keep that tempo going. So it's been fun to watch that style. Oh, and also say if you want to pause the VOD and talk about something longer, like a specific moment longer at any time, just like let me know because
Will
pausing
do.
is totally okay here. But so you slammed the Warmogs early on Darius, which is obviously going to be great for your early game. The Morello's hit out of the box was pretty nice. But as you look around the lobby here, kind of what are you thinking about your overall game plan? What did these early rounds sort of influence like your plan for what comp you're
Yeah.
thinking about playing? Are you thinking about comps yet, or just purely thinking about strongest board?
I generally don't think about comps. I think about like units I can carry pretty early on, but I don't think about comps at all
Okay.
until probably stage 4. Generally, late stage 3, early stage 4.
Mhm.
So in this spot, I slam Warmonks because I know I'm on Darius 1, but I want to streak. I at least want to stay strong. I don't necessarily need to win streak from this spot. I just need to stay strong enough that I maintain really high HP and get to 8. So Warmog obviously turns Darius into a Darius 2. And with Morello's Warmogs, I already know that I'm playing around some kind of big 5 cost board if I can. And then part of that is me having to stay strong. Like even though I'm losing here, it's fine. I'm not that worried about not win streaking because I can I don't worry too much about money here. I don't play Yordle or anything
Yeah.
because even though I'm not winning, I'm still really really strong, and I'm just like one good hit away from getting strong. I think I end up taking a Zyra 2 off Carousel here, and I hit TF2, uh,
That's
which makes me
huge.
so strong. Yeah, that
Yeah.
I just end up winning out, and that's my game plan in general. Is that I won't play econ traits. I won't play. It's the best of my ability if I have a decent opener.
Mhm.
Because if you just play strongest board every turn and you play around shop odds, you're generally going to be able to get stronger than everyone in the lobby naturally without having to roll too much.
Yeah, that makes sense. So can we say that Zyra might be one of the most underrated units in the early game right now?
She's so broken.
I
She's
feel
so
like
broken.
I don't see people using Zyra as much as they should. I love it, but I want to hear your thoughts on Zyra. You think she's broken? Why do you think she's broken?
Yeah, so she's a 2 cost that. I like to look at units and items and stuff as how big the impact on a fight is, rather than like synergy wise, whatever. How big is their impact on a fight? and there is no 2 cost in the game. It's comparable to Thresh from set 5 actually, and
Hmm.
that Zyra is a 2 cost that will win you fights all the way at like stage 6, all on her own. I played a Zyra with no synergies as my last unit, my like ninth unit at like 6-1, and it's won me fights because if they're all backline, like their whole board's backline, is one Zyra ult just kills everyone or like stuns
Yeah.
everyone for the whole fight. So
And it's a
just like
Zyra with a tier even. Like it doesn't
yeah,
get much better than that. Yeah.
exactly, yeah. Uh, cool to note is I didn't. So I you might notice I didn't make 10 and I didn't pre-level here because I
Yeah.
wanted to have shop odds to hit 1 cost. Because I knew I needed TF, I knew I needed Darius, and I do hit the TF because
Okay.
I didn't level.
That makes sense. I was going to ask about that. And I was going to ask about your philosophy in general in terms of like when do you like to pre-level, when do you like to, go up to 10 gold? What's kind of the deciding factors there?
Yeah, so there I couldn't make 10, which is why I didn't, but I also couldn't afford to sell Zyra pair or TF pair. Pre-leveling there, so I'm always thinking about how I can make my board stronger, like what's going to be the best thing for me to hit in the shop. And
Mm.
in this, and like the only thing that I could really hit to make me stronger was Darius 2 and TF 2. Like it's hard to play around 3 costs around from this spot. I have really good units as it is. So the biggest spike there for sure was just 2 starring into my 1 cost, which is why I stayed the level. I will pre-level a lot on 2-4, but from or 2-3, but in this spot is just the value in the shops wasn't there. Like the level 5 shops or level 4 shops were a lot more valuable for me
Yeah.
than any level 5 shops would be.
That makes sense. So at this point, you're going through the game. Your gold is a little bit low, but you're win streaking. You're keeping your HP high, basically, and you seem to kind of trend towards an AP style. Is that a fair assessment?
Yeah, I think AP items in general are. I'd say they're more flexible. I think AD now is looking pretty flexible in that you just basically need Last Whisper and your Last Whisper I feel like QSS and you can play Jin, Urgot, or Yone.
Right.
But Urgot's not that great, and really when I have a Nico, I definitely want to look at AP just because 5 costs are so strong, and AP 5 costs are really where it's at. Like Kaisa, Kali, Victor, I think they're all so strong. And then Jace is like a good 85 cost, but Jinx is terrible. So it's hard to be willing to play around 4 costs when you're in a good spot like this. I think
Yeah, that makes
particularly with
sense.
Nico.
On the Last Whisper front, bodyguards are getting like a little bit of a nerf this next patch that's coming out in a day or two. Do you think Last Whisper is going to be as impactful as it was before, as much of a must build as it feels like now if you're playing AD?
Yeah, I think the thing is that even if Last Whisper gets nerfed, so there's so many things in the game that give armor, and just resistances in general.
Right.
So like Elderwood mutation does makeshift armor. I mean, obviously bodyguards. Like Last Whisper just makes it so that it's not even that much worse than like an IE or a GS or whatever into non-armor heavy matchups, but it makes it so that those armor heavy matchups you have a lot more consistency in. So it's just a very good item across the board.
Yeah. Something that has been kind of interesting to me lately is that we've gone through this phase where Guardian Angel has been like a high priority item into a pretty low priority item, and part of that is a nerf. Obviously, you just don't come back with enough HP to seem to really make it worth it most of the time. But do you think that's just the only factor right now at GA, or are there other things in terms of how the meta has been shifting over the last week or so?
uh, I think honestly, I'm not too positive. Like so, GA Yone I think is a good example of a unit that was really good at GA and now isn't. I think
Yeah.
GA Yone is terrible at this point.
Mhm.
I think it was honestly probably worse than QSS Yone was to start with, but I think a lot of GA is just like it's still good on the units it was good on a lot of the units it was good on. Like Kaisa, it's good on. Akali, it's good on. It's
Urgot's
still good on
still
those
good
like
on.
one
Yeah.
star 5 costs. Um, but like HBA, it's worse on stuff like Yone Urgot because they don't abuse the casting in death animation as much
Hmm.
as something like Kaisa, Akali. So it's
Makes
tough to
sense.
say. It's tough to say exactly why GA fell out of favor. I think it was just wasn't that great to start with. It wasn't that great on like Yone and Urgot and stuff to start with compared to something like QSS, but it was just such a flexible item that you can't not build it.
It's all like timing, right? Like if Urgot gets killed like right as he starts his ult, and then throughout GA he's still using it, like then it becomes worth. But there's so many occasions where like that doesn't happen, and then you just kind of
Yeah,
see
like
him
he
come
just
back
won't
and
ult
die.
and then he'll die and then wake up
Exactly.
with mana. Yeah, it's not the best item ever.
Yeah.
So I choose to sell Ziggs here because I know that I want to get Scholar next level.
Right.
The Rabadon Slam, so Rabadons and Morellos here on a TF are really good because I was VOD reviewing this with esports law, um, Drachi and Inigo and Admirable actually a while ago, and so Bryce mentioned esports law mentioned why didn't you move items to Lissandra here? I ended up hitting Lissandra too,
Hmm.
and the reason why I don't right is that so what TF with Rabadons and Morellos does is that, and why you see me move him a lot to try to get different angles, is that if he tags a backliner with Rabadons and Morellos, the Rabadons is enough damage to generally get them around half HP. Morellos keeps them there, and then if he tags them again, they just die.
Yeah.
You'll probably be able to see it in this fight somewhere, where he just tags the whole board, and then like that. Yeah, and then Zyra also just kills stuff. But
Yeah, I think the easy answer is like what makes a good item carrier, right? And one of the big things is reach, right? You need to be able to have
Yep.
something that like can damage the front line, but also gets to the back line. And TF with Morellos is just so good at doing that. You put the death cap on there as well. Death cap I feel like is getting used a lot more lately because it's just straight up AP. It's just a lot of that. Oh, hold on, let's talk about the augment choices here. Not much of a choice. You just go for bodyguard.
Yeah. So
Yeah, that was an
Runic
easy one.
Shield, yeah, yeah, Runic Shield was not very good there, and I forget what the other one was. It wasn't. Yeah, they
I
like
don't remember.
yeah, Bodyguard is just super good in this lobby. I think the lobby is pretty AD heavy. I already know that like Kerm's and my QB's win streaking. If I play him with 4 Bodyguard, I insta win that matchup.
Mhm.
The AP matchups aren't that threatening, and I know 4 Bodyguard in general is just like beyond the armor, it's just a 300 HP shield on all the units that have it. So it's just a ton of frontline, and it's the biggest spike right now. And I'm playing for the biggest, what's gonna make my board strongest right now more than anything.
Mhm. All right. So going back to what I was gonna say, just simply put, why Rabadons over Jewel Gauntlet in that case, in that
Yeah.
situation?
So I think so. Generally, Rabadons is a lot better unless you have a lot of base AP already for JG. Just like from a pure damage perspective,
Hmm.
JG. If you have, I forget what the threshold is. It's like 100, I think, ish AP, and then JG's gets better than Rabadons on its own. But the thing about Rabadons, and this is also the reason why I've started to like IE a lot. So I used to always preach that Deathblade was way better on Sins than IE, at least like AD Sins because it just scales so much better with the
Hmm.
crit. But there's something to be said for like when you look at an actual fight and you look at JG versus Rabadons, for example, right? So let's say every other fight that you have JG, you low roll crits. One fight you high roll crits, one fight you low roll crits. And so you win that first fight a little bit harder than you would normally, and then you lose the second fight because you didn't crit as much.
Right.
But Rabadons is just very consistent strength throughout. So even if they were the same power level, Rabadons is more consistent. Like that power level, like you can basically adjust your board for fights and just predict fights more consistently than a JG, which you rely on crit chance, which is it's just such a like base stats are so reliable. But IE, for example, IE on Sins is actually more reliable in Deathblade because you need the crits, right? Which is kind
Right.
of the
And you're
opposite
you're
situation.
getting
But
the extra crit bonus from the trait too, so it makes it a little bit better in that case too, I'd imagine.
yeah, well, I think like raw damage wise, like damage potential wise, Deathblade is better than IE on like a Shaco.
Hmm.
But when like you have a fight where you low roll crits, it feels super bad, like
Yeah.
super bad. Um, So Belt's just a good component. I just take it to scrap. Uh, and I'm thinking with this crit glove, I can probably make like the tier is on TF because I'm thinking blue buff just for my mid game, and then TG is what I'm thinking with this crit glove. I wanted off of that carousel, like the TG or tier, didn't get it, so I just decided to go for belt.
Okay. Well, see, when I look at these items, I think Trap Claw automatically. But how do you feel about Trap Claw right now? Do you feel like you can position to the point where you don't really need it as much, or is it just a lower priority item in general for you? Like, what's your Trap Claw thoughts at the moment?
Yeah, I think trap claw is really good. The reason I think in general it's really good, especially with like Scion meta and Sins and stuff. The reason I didn't go for trap claw here is that so again I always slam items that are gonna be very impactful
Hmm.
for the board. If an item's not doesn't reach like a certain, it's not really something I quantify. I guess like what level of impact I need to have before I slam it. But it's like one of those things intuitively I'm like this item will affect a fight in this way. Like I run a simulation of the fight in my head,
So
like
wait, hold
and
up.
see what it's gonna do.
I want you to try to articulate that in terms of. I know you've just said it's very intuitive, it's very feeling based, but if you really kind of break down your thought process, is there any sort of scale you go through in terms of item impactfulness? Like, take me through
Yeah,
the thought process of deciding if an item will be worth it or not in a given situation.
Yeah, I think the first most obvious one, particularly when you're loose streaking, is will it kill another unit? So like will Trap Claw make me kill another unit here? That's like the
Mm,
easiest metric to measure an item slam by,
yeah.
how impactful it's going to be. And then beyond that, it's going to be, well, okay, does it make me kill another unit? Does it make me win the fight? Like winning losing the fight is going to be a big one as well. But that kind of is just based off of whether it kills another unit, right? Because if you kill enough units, you just win the fight.
Exactly.
Uh, and it gets to a point where like, I'm on a board that's really strong, so I'm just looking for anything that will change how a fight's gonna go, right? So the problem with Trap Claw in this spot, using that metric, is that Trap Claw, like if you've watched the fights, my TF like with the lobby as it is is not getting CC'd at all. Any
Mm-hmm.
fight. I don't mind my Ziggs one getting Blitzcrank cooked. It's like TG would make me a little bit stronger, but scrapping Blitzcrank is about the same strength because I get a good belt by him potentially. I give up Ziggs to Blitzcrank right now because I don't have Trap Claw, but that's fine. He doesn't affect my board strength at all. He's just scrap Arcanist,
Mm-hmm.
and then this belt and this Crick Glove. So Trap Claw won't do a ton. TG will do like a massive amount for this board, as well as like another Warmogs, a Zephyr, anything like that will be much more impactful. So I'm trying to buy time as well with this board.
Right.
Just time for TF to burn them with Morellos to pick off the back line.
Because you're also kind of waiting to see what your late game is going to be. You're waiting to see those 4-cost champions pop up, 5-cost champions pop up, and that's kind of like the direct. So here we are at 4-1, right? And so this applies. Like it seems like you probably want to go fast 8 because you've already got a decent board, but it's at the point in the game where people are going to start catching up, right? You're not going to be as strong going forward as you were coming into this round. You've got
Yeah,
the nice frontline Lux with the Bramble Vest.
yeah,
Not bad, not bad. Redemption there, nice too. But
yeah.
so
Redemption was the big reason there,
yeah,
but
yeah. So it's tank Lux. We get it. But going from this point on, you want to go to level 8, but are you also kind of thinking, all right, I might need to do a little bit of rolling here, depending on how strong the lobby is when I scout it? Like, what's the thought process there?
yeah, if the lobby was pretty strong, I think I'd still be willing to just sack rounds here. The thing is, so I generally play by like win conditions for a board, right? So
Yeah.
I make a board around win condition, and then I don't have to roll a lot most of the games because I think I use what's in shops really well. So I know that my board's still super strong. This TF is basically like a 5 cost right
It's
now.
huge, yeah.
And then with how tanky my board is, it's so hard. Like my unit quality is really good. My everything's 2-starred. I'm definitely falling off a little bit in terms of the lobby. I end up cycling TG here to try to find something that will make the fights a little bit better.
Yeah, this was a huge moment actually. This and not many people would do this. Is this a vital thing to do, or is this just something you thought, hey, I'm just trying to be as strong as possible?
So in this fight, I knew that a lot of my matchups are going to be really close. Particularly, I knew that Kuhn was going to be really, really hard to beat. So I don't need another unit. Like, there's no unit in my shop that really does anything extra. So I'm basically seeing TG as the last unit on my board, and then I'm just trying to re-roll it into something that's going to be really useful. Because my
Uh,
unit could be anything on my shop here besides like Cho'Gath and be okay.
and that was a big moment, right? Because you got Trap Claw and you got to shroud the back line. So keeping the Zac from doing his thing, keeping the Jace from casting a little bit faster, even though it is just an itemless Jace one. And you did end up losing the fight anyway.
I
But
actually win this fight.
oh wait, you do? Wait, oh my
I do,
gosh.
yeah.
All right, wait.
Just barely. It's literally like 1
All
HP.
right, Zyra is OP here. Okay,
Yeah, Bodyguard Zyra
I
popped off.
forgot
So
how
that,
this
that's
clip ended.
yeah. I got really lucky with with how the
Wow,
the fight worked out, but and
that's
that was
amazing.
definitely a TG gap. Not that I knew that like I'd win by that slight of a margin, but
Yeah.
it's just when you're playing the style where you're trying to push for strongest board every turn,
But if you
then
hadn't re-rolled the Trap Claw, you wouldn't have won that fight. So that's a
exactly,
big thing.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to be willing to look at the little margins. It's like little positioning things, little, saying that like Talon here is probably better than Bodyguard because my board doesn't need another source of frontline, it just needs more damage. It's just
Mhm.
making sure that you have a way to kill units every fight and a way to win a fight.
Well,
Um,
there are those defining moments in every game too, where if you had lost that fight, it looked like you were going to lose it by like 4 or 5 units, right? So then you're going to
it's
take like
close, yeah.
10 HP, something like that. That damage. It'd be a lot of damage, which can be majorly impactful in terms of just even top fouring. So, yeah, that
Mhm.
was. Would you say that might have been actually like the defining moment of this game?
That round was yeah. I think that round was very important for the success of this. So I ended up. I'll spoil it. I ended up going second this game because Solas catches out Mercenaries. But, um,
Typical.
yeah. But I think without that round, keeping my streak, it probably would have been like a third or a fourth. It could have been a second still, but I would have had to high roll harder than I did. I do. I mean the game in general has been pretty high roll. Like the Morellos was huge.
Mm.
The item drops off of raptors, is it? What are the ones that jump? Wolves.
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 Yeah,
It
it was a
was
big one.
really
Yeah.
good. So I've been high rolling a lot, but I think I've been playing around it well. It's just from here figuring out how to cap out my board. I can play around. So from this spot, I'm thinking I can play a Kali, I can play Kaisa, I can play just about anything. Um,
What's funny to me is that you basically have made your entire board out of 3 item components at this point. It's been rods, tiers, and belts, and like that's pretty. In fact, that's like literally it on your board right now. Only 3 components aside from the trap claw stuff. Just a couple gloves there, but Here we have the level to 8, a little bit of a roll down. So take me through what you're thinking here.
Yeah, so I'm just trying to stay a little bit strong here. I know that I need to find 5 costs. I want to get a little bit of direction now and just keep up with the lobby because a lot of people will spike on 4 or 5 right now. So I know that I'm still strong enough where if I hit something, like basically anything, I can still win this fight. I hit a Jin 2. That's enough to clinch up this next fight.
Right.
And then I'm basically like, okay, I have a Jin 2, so I have a source of backline DPS. I have a source of like finishing power for the board. And then I just need a Kali, Kaisa, anything now to hold this Morello's blue buff Rabadons, and then I have a pretty good game plan for my board. It's basically Kaisa, Akali, again, whatever, Victor. They wear down the board, and then Jin finishes them off.
So I think this is an
Just what I'm looking
important
for.
moment too, because a lot of people in this situation, a lot of like newer players would say, I'm playing AP this game, and so when I'm rolling down, I'm not gonna buy the Jins, because Jin is AD and I'm playing AP. But yet in this case, you get Clockwork, which is great because it leads to faster casts for everybody, obviously with the attack speed, and backline Jin just does so much damage. If you want to talk about that, let's do that. Otherwise, if you want to talk about the augments, we can do that real quick too.
Yeah, I think the augments aren't. The augment choice, all of them
not
are really
huge.
bad. So,
Yeah.
it's not. Yeah, it's not
Yeah.
that that crazy decision because it's basically I can't play Knife's Edge because I'm playing around a Jin and I'm playing around like a Kaisa or something.
Right.
I can't play Hyperroll really because I want to go 9. I don't want to be at 0 gold the whole game. And then Socialite is the biggest thing to actually increase my board strength. But yeah, so the Jin is a unit, which the thing is, like you can think you're playing AP and have these items, but it doesn't mean that your carry has to have these items. The thing holding the items has to be the thing finishing them off, right? Because it's really hard for Kaisa to finish units off early in a fight. It's like it's hard for her to just kill stuff because that's just how she works. She hits the whole board. Um, so it's one of those situations where even though Kaisa's gonna be holding on to my items, my game plan doesn't necessarily forbid me from having like a secondary carry to finish units off. It actually
Sure.
encourages me to have a secondary carry like this Jin that can actually kill units and then make it a cleaner fight. Because if I don't have this Jin, if this Jin is like more frontline or something, it's not going to be nearly as impactful as just like getting a unit out of the fight quickly, right? Because he
Right.
actually will just delete stuff for me some fights.
And so this fight, Robin manages to get a win over you, but like it doesn't really change your game plan too much, right?
Yeah.
Does losing a fight like this make you reevaluate your life, or is this kind of like, well, that line kind of just went the way it went, and then you find the Kaisa, so never mind, good feelings are back again, and so now we
Yeah.
see some changes. So take us through the board
Yeah,
as
yeah.
well.
I'm only willing to sell everything here because I already hit the Kaisa. I mean,
Yeah.
the loss to Robin, it kind of sucked. I knew that I was gonna start losing, which is why I rolled a little bit just to keep my gold up and see if I can find a 5 cost to play around. With this Nico, I'm not too worried. I know that I'm basically rolling down again. I'm looking for any big frontline units, and I'm playing around Kaisa too. I don't slam the Rabadons on her because I can play Kaisa with like Rabadon's blue buff on a Victor or an Akali here still. So I'm not willing to commit the items to her yet until I roll down and see what exactly I'm hitting.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Smart.
the game plan is still very, very much the same. It's still like roll down, get strong, try to go 9 essentially.
Yeah, there's the Leona too, so you can finally take out the Darius. And so are you thinking more socialites at this point, or is it just sort of the combination of, this is pretty typical, right? Where you see like a splashes of a lot of different traits that kind of add up to a lot, where you've got Scrap Shield, you've got Enchanters powering things up, you've got Scholar for faster casting, you've got, bodyguards being bodyguards. You only need 2 in there, but 3 is okay, whatever. You've got the items to make it 4, so that's nice. But so you're kind of fine playing a very wide trait board here.
Yeah. So the thing is, I think how vertical versus horizontal in general is that vertical is easier to play because it makes the game plan for you, right?
Yeah.
Let's talk if we talk about like 6 redeemed from set 5.
Oh yeah.
It is very simple to play, or like let's say 8 challenger. You just want to build AD items, you want to kill everything instantly. The board, like the game plan makes itself. Horizontal is generally more. I generally play more horizontal comps just because it lets you create more of like a custom made win condition for your board. Like here, I scouted the lobby. I knew that it was not very frontline backline heavy. Fights were pretty all over the place, which means I don't need a ton of frontline. I just need support for this Kaisa.
Yeah.
I need not a ton of frontline, support for this Kaisa, and then something that can finish stuff off, which is this Jin. And then just like playing around scrap 2-star bodyguards is gonna be enough for me to kind of survive.
And it's
more
got
or
to be
less.
pretty nice to hit the Kaisa too, like immediately. Finally, that Nikos
Yeah.
comes into play, and
Yeah.
like you hit 2 Kaisas and a 5% roll down at level 8. So that's got to be feeling pretty decent.
Yeah. I think with the Nico, so the thing about Nico's is that the only reason I played this game the way I did is because I had a Nico.
Hmm.
Without Nico, I'm probably playing around 4 costs. I'm playing around like Seraphine, Janna Ori probably.
Right.
So I knew that basically the reason why I played the game the way I did, and the reason why I wasn't willing to roll only till 5-1 is that with that much gold at 8, if I see 1 5 cost, right? Because there's so many 5 costs I can play around from this spot. It can be a Kali, Kaisa, Victor, whatever. And with 40 gold, hitting 2 of any of those isn't the worst. Like, it's not great odds, but there's a decent chance, like 40, 50 gold at level 8. I think I ended up rolling probably in total like 50-ish, close 50.
Okay.
Um, and so there's decent odds that at that point you're gonna hit one of them with this Nico. That's why Nico is so broken, by the way. It's like so totally busted to have a Nico because
Yeah.
it makes hitting 2-star 5 costs very consistent.
Can I just say your Jin has been rolling amazing items, by the way, too.
Yeah, he's been high rolling his items like crazy. Um,
That
in
helps.
general,
That helps.
yeah, it definitely helps. This is a high roll game for sure. I think that so I picked one game that was high roll and I played well around, and I picked one game that was like mid roll and I think I played poorly around
Oh,
to
okay.
the VOD review. But
Intriguing. Stick around for that.
yeah.
Yeah.
uh, so in general, positioning wise here, I put the blue off on Kaisa because I knew I'm playing around Socialite because I just want to. I mean, my highest capped board is definitely being able to play around Socialite.
Yeah.
And so by putting blue off on her, I'm able to put her in the Socialite hex when I don't roll double Zeke's on Jin and want to backline her. But
Yeah.
in general, I can put her on Socialite hex because she'll dip really, really quickly. It's like 2 autos and then she's out. So I'm comfortable frontlining her in basically every matchup in the game. Even the challenger matchup, I'm comfortable frontlining her with the blue buff.
Interesting. All right. So looking at this carousel, I feel like in these later carousels, you look for a lot of utilities, Zephyrs, Shrouds, things like that. You're going to go for, is it the Trap Claw here? Yeah, Trap Claw and
Yeah.
5 gold. All right.
Yeah, this is to make it even safer for my Kaisa to be in the front line. Because I know that if I want to win the game from this spot, I need to use. And generally, if you want to win a game, you have to use everything at your disposal, right? So I know I need to use a Socialite Hex because I already have. I have Socialite Augment. I want to play a Taric. I think I ended up dropping Taric here for the Braum because he's a better unit. I didn't need 2 Socialite, but
Yeah.
um, like you have to make use of the tools you have, and so I'm basically just trying to make the Socialite Hex as safe for Kaisa as possible. That's what the blue buff's about. It's what the Trap Claw's about. Um, Yumi, everything just keeps her nice and. I think I played a challenger matchup here, but she's super safe. If she gets hit twice, she's out.
Right. And it's really nice to have that Trap Claw on the front line as well because it helps you avoid things like Tom Kench initially eating one of your
Yep.
carries. There's a lot of value to having that up there as well.
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
So Kurum
And
taking some hits here, and it feels like this is one of those games where things are going well, but you're kind of thinking, oh, I wish I had the GA for Kaisa. Are you thinking that at all? Or are you kind of happy with things? I guess you win this fight anyway,
honestly,
right? But
yeah, I'm not. The only reason I think I really was thinking, I was thinking a little bit I want GA, but it's just because Solus is also carrying Kaisa, and
okay.
his has a GA, and if you're playing Kaisa without GA and a Kaisa with GA, you always lose.
Yeah.
So at this point, I know I really can't be a first because Solus is just he's me but a little bit stronger.
Right. So,
But I'm pretty happy I'm with the top 2 here.
So I notice every round, you're going to put that Kaisa on the Socialite Hex again, but you're also scouting. You're also moving her away from the Socialite Hex to kind of throw off other people's scouting here too. So you're thinking about that. What other things are you thinking about during your late round setups?
Yeah. So again, the weird thing positioning with Kaisa is that as long as you're not getting her killed really quickly, the fights are all gonna pan out very similar because it's not very frontline backline heavy, right? And basically,
Right.
as far as like damage dealers are going, I'm just trying to position Jin in a spot for him to kill something quickly, just get something out of the game. But as far as Kaisa goes, like frontline positioning is just to keep her safe, and then the fights are like everyone's playing kind of a slow board except for I guess Kurum, but even he was playing kind of a slow board, even though he's a bunch of challengers. So positioning here isn't too important in general. It's basically even if she gets shrouded like you saw, it's fine. Like she needs the socialite stats, so it's just making sure that Jin can kill something and then Trap Claw. I think the problem with Trap Claw is that my positioning does get pretty linear and socialite, but it's linear, but it's something that's like really it's a rock solid game plan, so it's really hard to stop. Like someone like just because you know my Kai'Sa's gonna be on social attacks because of trap claw and everything doesn't mean you can stop her with any kind of positioning.
Yeah.
Which is basically what the board is out to achieve. It's just like you can't beat it unless you're just straight up stronger than me.
So we're getting to the point in the game where, are you thinking about level 9 at all? Because your board, can't get like that much stronger. You can maybe put another socialite in or something like that. Then again, you can roll to try to finish off the Braum pair and get a Braum too. How do you feel about roll versus level 9 right now? Seems like a level 9 save to me, but what do you think?
Yeah, the thing about rolling here is you could. I think rolling is always a second. Level 9, I can try to win out versus. I haven't played Souls in a little bit here, so I'm thinking maybe I can beat him. I'm pretty strong. I haven't seen how the fight goes yet.
Sure.
And level 9, I can play something like Galio potentially as well, which is a lot of CC. I can also play 3 Socialite, which is a pretty big difference maker when Kaisa is my big carry. So
True.
I'm there's also like I can hit Jace Fiora. There's a lot of upgrades you can hit at 9, so I think rolling down at 8, I could look to 3-star. If I was looking at 3-star like this Oriana or something, because I have one in my shop, it'd be fine. But it's tough to roll here and expect to get anything but like a second, I think.
Yeah. Makes sense.
You see the GA Kaisa fight. Yeah.
Yep, that definitely makes a bit
So
of a
hard.
damage, or a bit of a difference rather. He's got the Tom Kench too as well with the Hex Tech
Yeah.
Gunblade, which is always kind of scary to have in your front line eating your tanks. There's a Braum too anyway, so you're in good shape there.
Yep. And
Yeah.
then I think I just end up playing the Seraphine for a bit.
Okay.
I do want to get out of Jin eventually. I'm definitely thinking here. I end up pulling the Jason the Fiora because I know I want to get out of Jin. I want to play Challenger Enforcer if I can.
Right.
It's just going to be whether I can 2-star the units or not, essentially.
That makes sense because I mean Kaisa, she's fine the way she is right now, but she's always going to do a little bit better with Challenger. But it's interesting because a lot of people really prioritize getting Challenger in no matter what, but it's not worth it, like you said, because you've already got this Jin 2 that's going to be doing a decent amount of damage to the backline, especially if he keeps rolling things like IE. So why put in a Fiora 1 for the small attack speed buff, right?
Yeah, exactly. I think if it's not Jin 2, it's definitely a Fiora because the thing is this Jin, they're like two different game plans, right? The Challenger one really leans into making sure that Kai'Sa's the one killing everything no matter what, while the Jin one, like that fight he did like half the damage of Kaisa, he's just finishing units off for me. So it's a weaker game plan, but I have stronger pieces to make that put the game plan together right now. Essentially, the Jin is just stronger than a Fiora one will be. So even though the play Challenger like Kaisa do everything, game plan is a little bit stronger.
Right.
If everything's the same star level, the Jin 2 is just going to be a little bit stronger for now.
So you kind of know at this point that the game is going to be probably over in like the next round, maybe two. So now do you kind of use this point in a tournament to think about like the game itself to reflect a little bit, or are you thinking about the next game? Like, because this one's pretty much over. So what are you thinking about in this moment?
Yeah, I will say I think I was still convinced I could win this.
Oh, okay.
I
All
I, I
right.
thought I thought I could outposition enough to win, and I
Hmm.
get a little close. There's a couple fights where now I get a little close because he's one life. If I beat him once, he's dead. As long as it's like a kind of a slam dunk fight. But
Yeah.
I'm just thinking hard about how to win this fight. I haven't started thinking about next game quite yet.
Okay, I
I
can
think I'm
see it.
feeling
Yeah.
comfortable. So
Yeah, I mean that one honestly like was fairly close. We were like, all right, well if I can find a shroud here and there's one on the
yep.
carousel, maybe you can change things. You do actually get the shroud. All right, I hadn't seen the end of this game yet. So if I were watching this and if I were you, I would certainly be thinking this is winnable as well.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I think I have better unit quality overall.
Hmm.
It's just that his are 2-starred. So like I think in general my board's a little bit like again the units are better, the game plan's a little better because there's just not like anything useless on my board. But
Yeah.
with the amount of items and stuff, it's just very hard to deal with. And so I decided to try testing out a couple things here. I'm like, okay, well, uh, 3 Socialite didn't really feel like it did anything that round,
Yeah.
and the Jin is I have fewer too, so I can take out Jin. So I'm going to try enforcing the Kench here. The thing about enforcing Kench is that so my board is not now with Jin out, like no one's damaging the front line at the beginning of a fight. So this Kench is going to take the full enforcer value, which I thought would be enough to win the fight because he's enforced for the entire time.
Right.
Um,
And then he also has to go through the trap claw first before he eats anything.
yep.
So it did slow it down a lot.
Although I think he actually ate while he was enforced still.
Oh,
What the heck?
that was
I think
weird.
Bluff made him eat while he was enforced. Yeah,
All
that
right.
was weird.
Let's go back and look at that later. Either way, a lot of damage. But you still had one life remaining. So you still are thinking, hey, there's maybe a shot here, but it's time to cycle the shroud like you're seeing there. Now in
Yeah, I see.
Oh, go ahead.
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No, you're the one who we want to hear. So go ahead.
I see Galio here. I'm looking at how that fight went, and I was thinking that okay, if I had a little more CC, then I can probably win the fight. I rolled good Fiora items, so
Okay.
I'm thinking that with Galio, the Galio try here is that uh, if he knocks up the whole board, we hit like so Warmogs is a much bigger knockup, then I can potentially win the fight just off of that
Right.
if it's long enough. And actually, so this fight ends up really close. If you watch the Fiora this fight, I think I actually win it if she gets her second ult off, and she's let's see, I think she's in the animation
Yeah,
as she
it's
yeah
oh yeah,
she
she dies
dies
in the
in the
middle of it.
animation. She would have killed the Urgot and killed Solus's Fiora.
Yeah, that was super close. All right, well, cool game. So that's definitely a way to use the Nico, get ahead, kind of stay ahead, and ride it into a second place. Not bad. All right, so second game we're going to look at is a little bit later in the tournament. This is game 4, you said, is that right?
Yep. Yeah. So if I get seventh or up, then I'm the only person at championship point here. So the
Okay,
format was a checkmate format.
right.
So basically, if I win any game after this game, is if I get seventh or up, then I win the tournament. So I'm just thinking, kind of, I need to get top 7, and if I do, I'm looking good for next game.
Sweet. All right. So you went with Rod first. Do you try to get Rod, or what's your? Let's talk about your item carousel preference for the very first round.
Yeah, I think I have a very different preference actually. This is one of my favorite things to talk about,
Oh,
particularly like
okay.
coach and stuff, because I have a very different preference than most people in that I don't really have an item preference. I have an item unit combination preference. So if
Ah,
I
okay.
see any unit on the carousel that can hold the item that holds the item it has well. So
Mm-hmm.
like as with bow, as with crick glove, TF with T or TF with rod, I'll always take it because it gives you a really really high chance of win streaking early. A
That's a
much
good
higher
point.
chance. Because now I have TF pair, but I would have had just one TF.
Yeah, it's just like way easier to 2-star a crucial unit to win streak through stage 1. So, and 2 rather.
Yep.
You should always be win streaking through stage 1.
Yeah.
If you're not,
Yeah,
then
basically.
that's a whole
Hopefully, I
different
actually lost
problem.
to I lost to creeps today on stream. So
Really? What
yeah, I lost to Krugs.
what did you have? What did you have in? Do you remember?
I was trying to reroll Twitch with kind of explosion. I had two singed ones, a singed two, and a Twitch two, and I lost to Krugs.
It happens to the best of us. All right, it happens to the best of
Yeah.
us. So scrap hard here with Blitzcrank. So you get the little shield, you get the ability to scrap items, which is always good.
Yep. I
Um,
took this exclusively for the Blitzcrank,
yeah, that makes
pretty
sense.
much. Yep. And so now I'm thinking, okay, I'm slimming Rabadons here basically every time, just because it's a high impact item. It makes
Mhm.
TF do so much more damage. And now if I slam Rabadons, then I can scrap the chain, and scrap chain on Blitzcrank is super good because if you roll Sunfire, you can just win fights,
Oh yeah,
just off of that scrap roll.
right. So and now it makes it even easier too to find another bodyguard early on, right? Because you've got the two
Mhm.
1-cost bodyguards that you can find instead of having to roll. Instead of having to find both, you have to only find one to get that in.
Exactly.
Yep.
Yep. So
I
I'm thinking if I find a Darius, I can play it. If I find a Leona or anything crazy like that, I can play it.
Yeah. What do you think about Poppy? Even Poppy? I feel like Poppy's okay. 2 bodyguard.
Yeah. I think on this board, I don't know if I actually end up playing Poppy here. I think
Oh,
I
okay.
do. I don't think I do actually.
The early Tarek
Um,
definitely changes things a little bit.
Maybe I do. I think I might play. I should remember what I play. Maybe I just play Ziggs.
Because I,
I'm
I
curious now.
really I really like 2 bodyguard, 2 Arcanist for an opening, and I feel like you've got a really good one here.
Okay,
But
I do play the Poppy.
yeah, I mean, then again, like the other thing too is that you don't necessarily need 2 Arcanist if you've got a death cap on your TF2 already, right? So the healing from the
Yep.
Tarek is probably better here, isn't it?
Yeah, I think the Tarek. So I knew I can't drop Tarek just because Socialite spot's okay for me, and then he's just a really really strong unit in stage two. So
Yeah.
generally, my stage two, I'm really all about. I'm talking about it during the last game as well, but game plan and like win condition. And so this TF does so much damage that I know if I can stall out a fight long enough, it's going to be enough to win. Like if for example, I don't have like a damage item, I had tank items, I'd definitely be looking to play Arcanist here, for a cleaner fight. But I think yeah, the poppy makes a lot of sense. I think I would have played like a Talon or something like that as well, just because TF plus Talon is a really good combo when you have Rabadons in your TF because if he tags the back line, Talon has a really easy time just killing it and moving to the next unit. But
Mm. That makes sense. Yeah, grab the Ezreal as well. I mean, you don't really need the third scrap, I suppose. So it's going to be back to the board you had played just a moment ago. But
yeah,
uh,
I was thinking
yeah.
about four scrap, but it's just
Oh, okay.
the unit quality goes down so much if I play because I think I put in Ziggs in as for a second there, because I have the scrap augment, so it was four, but
Oh, right,
it's
right.
just yeah, like as over Tarek is not, it's never right.
Yeah. It's just too much HP, too much healing. So Spencer looking like he's willing to take a loss or two early on. Of course, Augment kind of suggests that as well. But
Yeah.
at this point, and one thing I've kind of noticed too is when you play an AP style, I feel like looking to make fights last a long time and just sort of grind out the fights and outlast your opponent. It's kind of the theme of AP this set as it stands at the moment. Lux can kill things quickly, but if you're playing like the Orianna Seraphine kind of style, you really are grinding out fights a lot, huh?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. They have a the thing is, Morello is really popular right now because there are so many good appliers of Morellos, and
Mm-hmm.
particularly in that comp that generally if you just grind out a fight, like they all have a lot of healing and shielding as well. They'll do a decent amount of damage, but the biggest thing is that they do damage, or they also just have so much sustain that if you have Morellos to keep all your damage sticking, then it's a really really solid plan to just let your units take a bunch of damage. They heal back up. You let Morellos tick away. You do chip damage here and there, and then ores will just die.
Do you feel
Um,
like that's kind of influenced your style of play in general? That you sort of put together what a best board is in your mind is different because of how AP operates the set, or do you think it'd be the same regardless?
yeah, I think I play best board a lot better than I did than I have historically because I've been much more grounded in like rather than saying like on paper, else this fight's so sad. I lose this my
What? All right.
because
Well,
of
no,
thrill.
I can see it. Yeah, I mean, she's targeting. Yeah, the Tarek doesn't get to heal,
I got
and
so tilted.
yeah.
Um, but yeah, on the not the strongest board and stuff, like I think I'm a lot better at recognizing now. But I think that like honestly, it's been a like this set in particular where Morello's again has so many good holders. It's like a really really solid game plan. Just like play a long drawn out fight. Again,
Mhm.
a lot of really good healing units. Morello's holders. It's just kind of comes together. But I don't know if that part's a little set specific. But I don't know if I build my approach to strongest board has changed that much because
Okay.
yeah, I wasn't great at it before, and now I focus a lot on how to but not like what units are necessarily strong, but what units are strong in a certain situation, kind of thing.
So a big part of best board is usually slamming items, right? Knowing
Mhm.
what items to slam at the right time. We've been talking a lot about how good Morello's is, and yet you slammed the death cap when you could have theoretically taken a little bit of a loss streak, which isn't best board, obviously, but you'd be able to get that Morello's, which might be better down the line. So tell me kind of about that choice, right? To say, all right, I have it's pretty reasonable to find a belt off carousel if I'm low enough on the pick priority, versus slamming the death cap early. How do you kind of make that judgment call, right? How do you, as far as how much to greed items?
Yeah. So I always slam anything that's going to change the fight a lot. Rabadon's on TF2 will always change the fight a lot.
Yeah.
And so Morello's is a great slam. It's a great item, and the reason is it's really easy to make a board around Morello's. You play a lot of really good units. That doesn't mean that like it's you have to greed for it every round though, because you can make a board, an AP board, not around Morello's, because it is again easy to make one around Morello's. There are AP boards that are super strong without a Morello's.
Mm-hmm.
Like Lux can be really strong. Victor in particular, like six Arcanist Victor is insane. You don't need Morello's in that at all.
Right.
Um, so I'm basically by slamming Death Cap, I'm moving away from something like Kaisa, and I'm moving towards something like Victor or Akali. I'm maybe thinking Seraphine or something like that if I get one later on.
So
If I
some
get a Morello's later on, but I'm looking at one of the more burst heavy boards, burst heavy 5 costs.
Right, something that can accelerate that fight a little bit more. Although with Seraphine, you're still kind of playing a longer fight. It's just the death cap helps her healing as much as it helps her damage, I suppose.
Yeah, I would need Morello's if I wanted to play Seraphine from here for sure. If I wanted to be
Yeah.
able to kill anything, because it's really hard to for her to finish off units
Right. Right.
without something like that.
You kind of need the combination of like her Oriana doing some damage, and then like whatever else you could find. Scion usually in a lot of cases.
Yep.
Yep. But so going through this game at this point here, you've kind of been a little bit win loss win loss. Your gold seems decent coming into Krugs, but are you a little bit concerned? Have you scouted the lobby so far and seen anything that kind of worries you?
Not really. I think I got tilted after the Caitlyn fight loss because I lose that fight maybe once out of every like 100 times.
Yeah.
So I was a little tilted after that, but I wasn't too worried. I think I have really good items actually. As far as anti heal goes mid game, I'm probably the only person, one of the only people right now that is willing to slam Sunfire. But I think Sunfire is really
Hmm.
good. So I
Really?
was thinking yeah, I'm pretty sure I was gonna go for Sunfire of Carousel if there wasn't anything like crazy.
Okay.
I think actually I couldn't get it because I'm pretty sure someone took a belt, but I'm not too sure about that. So from here, I'm just thinking, okay, I'm pretty strong. The lobby's pretty strong. I'm gonna fall off pretty soon without anti heal, and coming up here, I make the first big mistake of the game. I think.
Okay, because that's what I was going to ask. Because you preface this by saying you felt like you didn't play very well this game. So I was going to say, when does that kind of start here? Oh, you get the spatula, and spatulas mess me up more than any other item in the game. I almost wish they wouldn't drop because I play horribly around it. Is the spatula part of it?
The spatula. So the spatula. So at this point, I don't know if I played. I think I maybe. I don't think I played horribly, but I think I played for a horrible. Like I was basically saying, I'm gonna go first or seventh this game.
Okay. All right.
Starting this turn, I said,
All you needed was
okay.
a seventh. We should restate that. That all you needed was a seventh this game.
All I
hit
needed
that
was a
threshold.
seventh.
Yeah.
But I still think it was wrong to play for seventh, just because I needed
Right.
points overall as well. This slam, this turn in particular, I want to talk about because this is me saying if I don't hit a collie, I am fucked.
Okay. Yeah.
uh, so the reason being, Syndicate's fan, it makes the board a tiny bit stronger. It's honestly not like any stronger than Scrapping Chain would be, realistically.
Right.
The other big problem is I slammed Hodge. Hodge does not do anything for this TF right now. The amount of AP it gives, potentially the amount of damage it gives, the amount of healing it gives, is going to be so inconsequential in every fight that it just like it is not worth slamming in any situation, in my opinion. Looking back, in this spot, I was like, okay, Hodge, Rabadon's good Akali items. But the problem with making good Akali items on 3-2 is that you don't have an Akali on 3-2. You have a TF on 3-2.
Yeah. So you think your first big commitment was your first big mistake was overcommitting to the idea of playing a collie.
Yes, I think I could have stayed more open here. I knew I wasn't going to be winning that much without like this board wants some Morellos. Like I'm playing Rabadons. It's fine. It's strong. It made me a lot stronger stage 2. This board wants some Morellos. I think even here I probably could have even moved items to Heimer. I think I lost my I kind of lost my way in terms of how I wanted to play the game. I think honestly a lot of how I play the game right now, I was kind of coming into my own during this tournament, and so I wasn't too sure exactly what my style was, what I wanted to do, and then I found it over the course of the tournament. I think this is one of the games where I was really confused as to what I was valuing, like what I was prioritizing over other things. Because here, I'm making Akali items, but I'm also trying to win streak. But I'm like, I'm making an item that maybe helps me win streak a little bit more. But I got a reforger. I could have just reforged like the crit level if I wanted. It wouldn't even been bad. So I'm making a whole lot of decisions that don't really make me as strong as I could be, and also committing to a singular 5 cost, which I basically never do because it's just the way I play the game. If I don't have that, I don't want to be in a spot where I don't hit the 5 cost, I lose. So I've made a lot of really weird decisions that don't really line up with how I want to play the game, just in general. So I think I definitely lost sight of what I wanted to do.
I think there's two things there, which is interesting in that you see a lot of players have that same result, right? Where when you start to play the game based on what you want to see versus what's actually in the game in that particular game, that's when things kind of start to go awry in a lot of cases. And the other thing I wanted to ask you about though was what do you feel like you learned through this tournament? Like what would you define your style as now, and how did that emerge during the tournament?
Yeah. So now I define my style as I play. I think I'm all about board strength and understanding like what is a strong board. I don't think I play for like spikes. I don't play to spike it like this round, this round, this round. I play to have a very steady curve over the course of a game.
Okay.
I get stronger naturally because I think I use shops really well, and I learned that I'm good at that over the course of this tournament. I feel like I was just playing strongest board. I was playing in a way where I was just trying to never be weak if I could, and it was working really well. Or like if I was weak, I would hold on to things that made me stronger because I knew that I hit 10 units in the next any of these 10 units in the next shop, I'll get a lot stronger.
Yeah. Okay. Do you feel like that style is sort of an antithesis to getting firsts in a way? Like, because this, especially with this format, sometimes putting together a first place board requires taking some risks and kind of abandoning that strongest board, smooth curve kind of style. Do you feel like the style you kind of feel comfortable with makes it harder to get firsts if you really want one?
I don't, to be honest.
Okay. All right.
I think it's definitely a conversation. I think I was under the impression this kind of style was hard to get first as well. I will say that. So I went second. I think I went fourth, second, second. No, fourth.
The old mismatch.
Yeah, fourth,
socks.
second, seventh. There was a seventh and a third in there somewhere. It was a lot of seconds.
Right.
And I will say that almost all of those. So the Kaisa game was one where I don't think I could have gotten first if I played any better. So in that situation, I didn't play Merc, so I couldn't get first, right?
Mm-hmm.
But every other situation, this game or over the course of the tournament where I got second, I could have even the one where I got third, I could have gotten first. If I just played my one of the biggest weaknesses I found, and one of the other things I learned a lot over the course of the tournament is that like when I'm under pressure, my late game like understanding of positioning and stuff is super bad.
Okay.
So that's one of the biggest things I've been looking to work on moving forward here. It's tough to work on enough for Zon Cup where it's just a week in between, but or 2 weeks in between. But
Yeah, I mean, because the late game is a situation that you don't really honestly get to play every game, right? So, do you find that you get better results improving something like that through VOD review? Because I know you've been doing a ton of that since the tournament, or do you feel like playing is what's going to give you the most benefit?
yeah, I think a lot of it is that. So if you watch, barely the last game was one of the. I got third when I lost 22 HP in one round for to a positioning mistake,
Mm,
and I went third when I had a really strong board. And so I think a lot of that is just me coming to terms with like tournament nerves, coming to terms with, uh, being. So I was like, I start to move really early, and I move back. Like, everything's very obvious what I'm doing. It's all very stiff.
okay.
So a lot of that doesn't I don't think comes from VOD necessarily, and more of like because I all those games right after the game I knew what I did wrong more or less positioning wise.
Right.
It was just that in the moment I was like super in my own head, super making like just made poor decisions. So uh, I think a lot of that is just staying calm and particularly towards the end of the game because I think overall in the tournament I played really well and like really calmly.
Yeah, for
And then
sure.
the second it came down to the the I had to make the buzzer beater play. I just didn't over and over and over again,
Uh,
which is frustrating but a good learning experience.
Yeah, and I mean that's the thing where you kind of tell yourself, well, there's another tournament in a couple weeks, right? And the nice thing with TFT is that it's not it's not winner take all usually. It's a lot of
Yeah.
getting to the next round requires a top four, requires that consistent style. But let's zone back in on this game a little bit where it's been a bit up and down here, but one thing I noticed is you found a lot of four costs pretty quickly here, and you put them in pretty quickly too. How do you feel about that? Is that because sometimes I see when people do that, it ends up creating a bit of a losing streak situation, as we have a little bit of a roll down too to maybe talk about. But tell me about early forecasts and utilizing them in best board situations.
Yeah, so this Braum, for example, I took off Carousel, I think because I had Darius one. It was an immediate upgrade.
Mm-hmm.
So as long as your board has a decent game plan, there's not much else I could play that was stronger than playing Scholar with the Janet. Scholar's out of scrap, and the Ori's also a pretty strong unit just in general. So I think when you're playing around four costs, you have to make sure they're not. You have to think less about synergies and more about like unit strength. So I forget exactly what I played over the what I was playing before the Ori and the Janna, but as one star, four cost, they're actually both pretty strong. I mean, Janna is just insane synergy bot, and Chanter is really great on the board. So
Mm-hmm.
synergy wise, I just said don't look at the synergy, look at the unit quality. But synergy wise, they are offering a lot, and then unit quality wise, they're offering about as much as basically anything else you can be playing here, unless it's like a 2 star something. I think the thing was in this spot is that I didn't roll on six, and I didn't have a lot of 2 star units. So in that situation, playing four costs, 1 star four costs is really okay, just because you're really just if you're playing a 1 star four cost over like a 1 star two cost, most of the time it's going to be right.
Yeah,
Um,
that
but they
makes
also
sense.
just it lets me save some gold up and set myself up pretty well.
All right. So this and you also got scrap in and you mentioned oh well this sort of contradicts my rule of looking at individual unit strengths, but at the same time TFT is like being good at TFT is kind of a game of contradictions, right? Where
Yeah,
you have your themes, you have the econ management rules, the positioning rules, the item rules, that you like to follow most games, but there's always exceptions, right? Because there's 7 other people in the lobby, they're all getting different things in use, so you always have to be ready to be flexible too.
yeah, for sure. It's hard to ever like if for example if you just want to win streak every game, and I think what was one of the biggest growing pains for me coming into my own style and figuring out how to play the game at the level that I feel I am now, or the level just understand the game at the level I do now, was that I hated lose streaking. I thought that my style was like I need to win streak or else what am I doing?
Hmm.
But it wasn't. It was that even if I'm lose streaking, I'm playing a strong board. I'm losing less HP than other players, and I'm naturally finding these upgrades because I'm holding pairs. I'm playing the right units that scale me better. Um,
Right,
and
because
yeah,
to a
you
certain
can't play around a
extent,
game plan always.
Well, and to a certain extent too, like you can build the strongest board that you've been offered and still lose streak, and because like
Exactly.
you
Yeah.
right, because building strongest board doesn't equal winning per se, and I think that's a misconception a lot of people have is that if I'm playing the strongest board, then that means I'm gonna be winning a lot of rounds. But your
Yeah.
strongest board isn't necessarily stronger than somebody else's strongest board in that given game.
Exactly. Yeah. I think a good example of that actually is the last game we looked at. I lost the first two rounds even though I was playing my strongest board, but I was holding units to continue playing strongest board. I was holding units that would make me stronger naturally.
Mm.
I didn't roll once, I don't think, until level 8.
Yeah,
Because
you
I was just
basically didn't.
abusing everything in my shops, essentially.
Yeah.
And sometimes you will have to roll. Uh, but if you're not just saying if you're saying like I don't have my best board or my best board isn't strong enough, so I'm just gonna sell everything and make money, you're like that's not always the right answer, right? You can play your best board, still be losing, and say, oh, play my best board. If I hit everything here, I'm naturally gonna get stronger than everyone else, and it makes that nice like gentle slope.
Yeah.
And so instead of having like spike, spike, spike at these random intervals, you just slowly get stronger.
So what are you thinking on this carousel besides I want that Galio so bad? Oh no, you went for the sword. Okay, I don't know. That Galio looks so tempting to me, but you didn't end up
Yeah.
picking it up, but you were going for the sword first, so
Yeah, I wanted GA for Akali because Akali without
yeah, makes
GA is
sense.
not. I'm still on this Akali train here. I'm like, okay, I'm playing Akali or I'm going eighth. I'm playing Akali or I'm playing. So I'm playing Akali or I'm going seventh.
Mhm.
As my game plan, which I think was a terrible game
I
plan.
remember you saying this during the game, and I was like, all right, well, it's a very cavalier approach to it, but you do get Syndicate Galio, which is kind of cool.
I do, yeah. So I'll talk about how this. So I make a board here, and this is all a consequence of me slamming this Hodge and not like reforging Crick Love and stuff earlier in games. I think Crick Love was not a good component there, and I should have reforged.
Hmm.
I think that was one of the biggest misplays. So in this spot, I'm playing a board that's slow. I'm playing a board that needs some instantaneous oomph to kill any units, right?
Right.
TF doesn't kill stuff very quickly. Like there's not any burst damage on my board. And so Akali would be great here because Akali gives me that instantaneous burst damage, which is really what I was playing the game around. But the problem is when I don't hit Akali from this spot, I just can't play the game essentially because I'm playing around something like Ori or Seraphine, and with these items, I will never be able to kill a unit. And so I end up bleeding out pretty quickly here. But I think I end up in an Oriana 2 coming up pretty soon with these items. But I get
Okay.
really dizzy overall.
All right. Looking at these augments, share the spotlight. I mean, where the augment spot is makes a lot of sense. Yeah, because you can
Yep.
just kind of collapse everything. Now you're playing rebels basically.
Yeah.
Everybody's getting the buff.
This TF is just a Jankson, yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And Social Light
uh,
3, like I mean, it's this board, like it's got a lot of 1 stars, but if you just looked at this board in isolation, you'd be like, oh, this seems pretty decent. But what would you say the weaknesses of this board are right now?
yeah, so I have a lot of sustain, a lot of frontline, everything, but I don't have any damage. I
Yeah.
have damage, but I don't have any damage that sticks. So no matter what I play here, whether it's Oriana, Seraphine, whatever I carry, it will never really be able to finish off a unit because other people are also playing boards that heal, right? There's a lot of Chemtech players. There's a lot of Chanter players, stuff that gets shielding, healing. So even if I am shielding and healing as well, if they have anti-heal, and this is I made a board essentially. I was talking about how Morello's isn't you don't have to play around it, but it's easy to play around and um, like it is necessary for some boards. Like this board needs a Morello's, otherwise I can't kill anything. And I like one of the biggest mistakes of this game was that by building Hodge, I say that okay, either I hit a Morello's this game or I hit Nikali. Otherwise, I'm going eighth,
Yeah.
uh, which was not exactly what happened. I went seventh, but
Yeah, because like but you do have to start getting worried at this point in the game, right? Where you're down to 36 HP. It's only, going into Raptors right now. Everybody else is looking pretty stronger, or pretty strong rather. So you're kind of, would you say you're in the mode right now where you feel like I need to salvage this somehow? I need to like make sure I do get seventh. Although I guess with Robin at 3, you're pretty much
yeah, I'm
guaranteed
feeling
at
okay with
least.
Robin at 3
Yeah,
HP, but
just notice that. Yep, never mind. Yeah,
um,
thanks, Robin.
I
But
think yeah, right. Robin had us,
had your back
thankfully.
down. Yeah. He needs seventh. That'll
uh,
dive out. Yeah.
yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, I think at this point I'm like trying to think about like I know I'm probably going seventh at this point. I know my board's not gonna get strong enough. So I'm thinking about what I did wrong, why I ended up in the board I was in. I'm trying to play in the syndicate spat still as well.
Hmm.
Like Galio is just so hard to play here. I think I end up just playing I end up playing Blitzcrank instead because the thing with this board too, taking Shadow Spotlight as well is that like it's so hard to fit the units I need. It's so hard to fit everything I need to actually make like a strong board, and it's just not really coming together.
And you're really vulnerable to all that area of effect crowd control that exists in this set as well. Like that's what always makes me a little bit nervous about Share the Spotlight is that there's so much like AoE crowd control that you're kind of setting your whole team up to get hit by it with this.
Yeah,
I love the
yeah.
idea of Share the Spotlight, but in functionality, I'm always like afraid to take it.
You have to be so strong to take it
Yeah.
because you know you're getting sharded every round. You know you're getting, you know, hit by every AOE in the game. So if you take it, you have to be just your unit quality has to be out of control. Like your item quality, unit quality has to be so strong that it's kind of like the situation we talked about in the first game where like I knew I could position in Socialite Hex because I was so much stronger than everyone else that even if they positioned into me perfectly, it doesn't matter because I'm so much stronger than them. That's the kind of board you need for Share the Spotlight.
Yeah, it makes sense. So at this point, you don't have a lot of gold. You'd love to two-star some of this stuff. The Seraphine, the Janna, the Braum. You've got the Yumi in there now, which is always nice. So back to 3 Socialite. Okay, and you do two-star the Seraphine. Oh wow,
I
were you
do.
actually thinking of reforging that Bramble?
I'm good. I think I do.
Oh my
I
god.
think I sell the Galio and I reforge pretty soon here.
Okay.
Um, so the thing with this board is that I have a lot of dead items now,
Hmm.
which is bad, right? Syndicate Spat's dead. Bramble doesn't really do anything in this board because Galio's dipping anyways. Spark isn't really doing much. So I know I'm in a spot where I have a lot of dead items. I have a lot of like it's just yeah. The whole game was very counterintuitive how I like to play the game,
Hmm.
but
And it all
I'm in a
goes.
spot where yeah, it's
Now, you and I were talking a little bit about this before we started shooting the show today. Is that going back and finding out, where things went wrong in a game of TFT? Does it all gets traced back to that Syndicate Spat slam? Is
yep.
is
Syndicate
that
Spat and Hodge that one round.
right? And
Yep.
so it's more. It's not even necessarily the items that were slammed. It's kind of like what you do in the early rounds affecting your mindset for the rest of the game more than anything, huh?
Yeah.
Spicy
Yep.
challenger spat. Uh
Yeah, and I
oh.
get the Kaisa in the same shop, so that was
Oh,
the
that
high
works.
that was the
Okay.
high roll
Yeah.
because I think I ended up playing the Kaisa. The Kaisa is also a great unit for this board because again I need something to kill units,
Yeah.
and Kaisa does provide that. But it's too little, too late at this point. You know, Rom's not two starred.
Right.
Um, other guy's not Blitzcrank's not two starred.
You don't really
Other
have the
guy.
items for the Kaisa. Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, she's great because she finished. I need finishing power in general on this board because normally Morello's would give me that. It would just like people low HP so that I everything can finish off units. But
Mm.
with all the healing and stuff, this Ori is just having a horrible time trying to kill stuff. Which is so generally how I play the game right now is I will never be in the spot generally because I will never build a board where I can't use where like need an item that I don't have. Right, I'm playing around a board that would use this Rabadon, Shiv, Hodge better than the board, like to win the rounds rather than saying,
Right.
"Oh, if I had Umbrellas, I'd be fine here."
Yeah.
So that's where I messed up this game is that I slam these items that really promote me hitting a Collie or needing Umbrellas when I could have just been playing around. Again, I think I should have reforged at that point.
How much
Um,
would you say the game is a multi carry style of play or multi carry meta versus a single carry meta? Because there's examples of both in the game right now, but which way does the needle tip in your opinion at the moment?
I would say in general, you want more than one carry right now. That's why Chalice slamming is so popular right now because you can
Mm.
carry like Seraphine and Ori. You want multiple sources of damage if you can. You can definitely play. So if you look at the game in terms of like win conditions, right? You can definitely play for your win condition to be my big Urgot kills everything, my big Yone kills everything. But with the CC, yeah, Seraphine.
Seraphine 3, yeah, there you go. Go for it.
With the game in the state it is, it's a lot more consistent to have multiple carries rather than have like one crazy hyper carry. Like even in Jin, you need to carry like your secondary carry is basically the Scion.
Right.
It's less frontline backline, and
And so
I think there's
that's
some really
oh
cool. Oh,
good.
as I said, there's some really cool examples that even are outside of like multi like dual carry, and that this has to do with augments. You can build boards that carry rather than like a unit that carries. So, for example, that game I lost to Creeps today, I had Prismatic Kinetic Explosion, and I actually got fifth instead of going eighth because I just built my entire board around. I do this a lot. I think Kinetic Explosion is one of the most underrated augments actually right now.
Interesting.
Prismatic Kinetic Explosion in particular,
All
because what
right.
you do is you just build Shiv on an Urgot like Shiv GA. You don't care about Urgot carrying. You just get magic resistance reduction, and you let you build your whole board around your front line blowing up and killing everything.
Wow, I want to do that
And
now.
yeah, it's
All
super
right.
fun. I mean, I've won a game off Warwick 2 carry with that.
Huh. All right, I'm intrigued. This is gonna be the next way I go eighth on stream, but it's gonna be fun. I'm gonna wait till I see it. But
But it makes you
that
look at the game like a completely different way, right? Because you're like, I'm
yeah.
not carrying a unit, I'm carrying 8 units essentially.
Well, that's the
So
beautiful thing about the augments for sure. All right, here we are back at the end of the show, the beginning of the end of the show. After watching those two games, so I'll ask you first. What would you say the two big takeaways from each of those games would be? Game one and then game two. What would be kind of like the pillar themes for those, if you could sum it up in like a short thing?
yeah, I think game two, or the first game rather, which is game two of the tournament,
Right.
was really an example of kind of how important every little decision you make in TFT is. Like the TG cycling, the positioning a lot in stage 2 and 3 to like barely clinch out these fights. I like it was a very good example of I was high rolling, but I made all these little things go well. I had a very good game plan.
Mhm.
I knew what I could play around, and it was kind of all these small components forming into a top two.
Okay.
Um,
I like
and
to
then
well let's break that down a little bit more
yeah,
with game
yeah.
one. Because I like to take a lot of things we talk about in the show and relate it to how newer players can work that into their play styles. And I think a big thing that stands out with just the way you play and the way that game went in general is that it's usually good to have a plan as far as how you want to play the game, right? When I talk to new players who are just getting into TFT, I say find a champion you like, find a synergy you like, and just play the game around those initially, right? Do the best you can with that stuff, and as you do, you'll learn about other things in the game. But and maybe in game two we saw a little bit of sticking to a plan being a negative thing in a different way. We'll get to that. But would you agree that for a player that's kind of like learning TFT, one of the most important things to succeed early on is coming into the game with a plan and just trying to play around that?
Yeah, I think it can be productive and potentially harmful to have like a game plan from 2-1, right?
Hmm.
Uh, so I think it's important to have, particularly when you're first getting in the game, you're gonna use to all the units, you're gonna use to all the synergies, items, whatever. It's important to play at least to a degree around what you do know, right? Because otherwise you're just gonna
Yeah,
get totally lost. I think that's at first that's the great way to play it,
when you're a
to
beginner,
play the
yeah.
game. Yeah, for sure. And then once more you're starting to climb, you're more aware of what all the units do, what all items do, or at least what most of them do. You feel like you've gotten a little bit of a grasp on the fundamentals. It's really good to kind of branch out. I always say that you'll learn so much more as once you get over the initial first big learning curve of just what the hell is going on with all what is all this, what's on my
Uh-huh.
screen. uh you will get a lot from just you have an item, you want to put it on so what I did in set 3 when I started was I'd play Master Yi uh
Oh no.
with all these crazy items over and over
Yeah.
and over again. And then I was like, man, this isn't really working. So I just started like reading more units tooltips, like looking at more items, trying new combinations, and just it's a lot about experimentation and understanding what's good on what's good in what situation. So experimenting, like branching out, is going to be how you get better after that initial step where you should really be forcing, like probably like, you're not forcing, but playing around a couple things that you do know, just so you can get a hang of the game.
Yeah.
Um, yeah.
All right, so let's go to game two then. So kind of an opposite situation, right? Where the game plan chosen was maybe made too aggressively and became too narrow in the moment. Let's break down that a little bit. What's the main theme of game two?
Yeah, so I think the main thing in game two takeaway is what happens when you have a lot of discord between decision making, between like the values behind decision making
Hmm.
in a game. So a lot of my like small decisions in that game were made with like wanting to win streak, or rather wanting to stay strong, wanting to keep myself open in mind. But that one round where I slammed items and I put myself in a situation where I play this one thing or I'm dead. Like
Uh-huh.
those two game plans, they do not coexist at all. There's so much discord between those two, and I think that game is a really good example of what happens when you're, let's say your play style is that you like to play strongest board, and then you make a decision that's totally fueled by a want to not play that I want to like play something um, very specific late game, but You know,
Right.
you get to late game, you don't have enough gold to find. I didn't have enough gold to find Akali because I was playing strongest board. I was investing gold into HP, into my streak, or trying to at least. Whatever streak I scraped together.
Uh-huh.
So there was so much discord in that decision to play for Akali, um, in my decision to, you know, my decisions the rest of the game to play for strongest board to get strong on a curve, and because of that, I didn't have enough money to get to Akali. My whole game plan fell apart, and I got seventh.
Okay. Yeah, makes sense. Happens
Yeah,
to happens to everybody. I played on
yeah.
stream on last Friday, and I played like I think 5 games over the course of like 3 hours or so, and I bought forward every single one. It was the worst stretch of games. I played more in the evening. I was terrible then too. It was the worst stretch of games I've had in like 2 sets. But
Oh
so
man.
it happens to everyone. It's soul crushing, but it happens. But
Yeah.
let's
Good learning experiences though.
yeah, for sure. I definitely did learn a lot, and that's the thing. You know, back in StarCraft 2, there was this player named White Raw, who was this guy from Ukraine, and he was known for his phrase "more GG, more skill," which means like the more games you play, whether it's win or lose, the more you're typing that GG at the end of the game, the more you're learning, right? So it's kind of
I
like
love
a
that.
yeah, it's great. Like it's such a great lesson for esports in general, where it's like keep playing the game, take what you can from each game, win or loss, and like use that to grow as a competitor, you know, and use it to grow to have
Yep.
fun, frankly, because that's kind of the point of
Yeah, I
video
mean,
games in the end. Yeah.
if you turn every loss into a learning experience, then you'll get better so much quicker than if you just say, hey, if you don't blame losing on, oh, I didn't hit this unit, and
Hmm.
instead saying, well, why is not hitting this unit make me lose the game? You know, you'll get so much better if you look at why variance is affecting you, and how to control that variance rather than just saying, more dog, why?
Yeah, I feel like you don't truly understand the effect of variance in a game, TFT or otherwise, until you kind of reject the idea that all your losses are because of variance, right? Because
Yep.
when you start to really realize your decisions affecting the outcome of a game, then when it really is variance, you can definitively say, okay, in that moment, this is what I needed, and like, you know, I just never two-starred my Seraphine or something like that, right?
Yeah.
You know, you can pick a specific point of variance that was the cause, and you'll find that they're a lot more rare than you think they are. It seems like.
Yeah, I will say as someone who's now, done well at that top level, at least in one tournament,
I say so.
um, I I when I'm playing well, I very rarely feel like I'm low rolling. I feel like, for example, game two, I was playing AP, I got double bow drop off creeps, but I was like, oh, I can use that.
Mhm.
Like, when you start to see the game in a way where you're not saying you don't have like one game plan in mind, and if you have anything that strays off from that, you're doomed. And instead, you take everything in stride, and you like are very flexible around what you have. You're very malleable into what direction you're going. Then it's so much harder to low roll because
Right.
so many more things turn into a high roll. You know what I mean?
Yeah, exactly. I mean, the I always like to think like a good board is lurking there in my shop somewhere, right? And like a high roll is in there. Like I feel like nearly every game I have the capacity to high roll if I can see it, right? A
Yeah,
high roll is like something that I believe you make happen more than it happens to you. Sometimes you just get lucky, you know. Sometimes you have
yep,
like
yeah.
the 3-5 cost shops, right? At like
Or
Fort
you get
One or
Morellos
something.
off of yeah, or you get Morellos off of item grab bag.
Yeah, that's always
Like there's
good too.
definitely
Yeah.
yeah. Um, I think when the top player's playing well or when anyone's playing well, you won't feel like you're low rolling as much.
Mhm.
Not that that doesn't exist, right? Because there are certainly low rolls.
It does
Even if
for
you're
sure.
yeah, even if you're a player in the game, you definitely bought 4 game off of just low rolling. But it's so few and far between. Um,
Yeah.
that,
It's a fantastic game, and to rely too much on the concept of RNG robs you of the ability to enjoy
yeah.
the game to its fullest, I would say. But it's been great chatting with you and nerding out about all this like in-depth TFT stuff. I love this show. I'm so happy I have time to finally do it again. We're gonna close it out in a moment, but first I was gonna ask you. I hear all sorts of anime music on your stream all the time. Would you say you're an anime enthusiast, an anime enjoyer, and if so, what anime would you recommend to somebody out there right now?
Yeah, so we normally have a Weeb Friday where we listen to anime music only on Friday,
Oh, that
but my,
okay.
my
That's
autoplay will generally get us to there in the middle of the week sometimes. But yeah,
okay.
I do I watched a lot of anime in high school. I haven't watched a ton recently, but I will say Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba
No, okay.
is insane. If you haven't watched it,
I haven't yet.
pick it up. It's
All
really
right.
popular on Crunchyroll right now. I think it's really popular in general, but very very good show, very good manga. So if you're looking for something to read or watch and you like swords and you like I'm
Who
not
doesn't?
killing things.
I mean, hey,
Sure.
you mentioned you played Master Yi, so it's
Right?
obvious right there.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
pretty significant sword.
Basically the same thing.
Yeah. All right.
Basically the same thing.
I'll check it out. So now we come to the end of the show. Thanks so much for being on Galaxy Brain. You've been an awesome guest. Any final shout outs, thoughts you'd like to share before we close it out?
Yeah, well, first, thank you so much for having me on. That was a great time. I love talking about TFT, especially with someone who loves talking about TFT as well. So that was great. Shout out to anyone who watches the stream and supports. It means the world. Family, girlfriend, everything, everyone for supporting me and my stupid idea to play TFT competitive like for a living.
I mean, it
So
doesn't
yeah,
seem too
and then
stupid right now.
yeah, only up from here. Hopefully, I'm gonna keep doing my best. So thank you to everyone who's been supporting me. And again, thank you for having me on. It's been
Hey,
fun.
my pleasure. It's been an awesome episode. It's been a great way to bring Galaxy Brain back. Definitely go check out Spicy Appies on all socials and twitch.tv/SpicyAppies. It's on the bottom of the screen. You can go see it there as well. Thanks everybody out there for watching. These are going to be more regular. I'd love to do it at least once a week, if not every other week. We'll get it done. And more games than just TFT as well. Done a couple WoW episodes in the past. You and I were talking earlier. Maybe we got to do a Smash episode at some point.
I'd be sick.
We'll
That'd be
figure
so
something
sick.
out. Well, I want to expand it. You know, the realm of gaming is large. The realm of esports is large. But that's the end of
For
this
sure.
episode. Thanks everybody for watching. Thanks again to Spicy Appies for coming on the show. Take care. Stay safe. Play some games. We'll see you next time.